Hi, welcome to Iron Health Talk with Dr. Akram. I am Akram. In this program, we'll be talking about all kind of different health issues with different experts in the field. But today we're going to talk about teenagers and especially about the teenage brains. Why are they so weird? So sit back, relax, and enjoy the time with us. Although you know your teenager takes some chances, it can be a shock to hear about them. One fine morning, not long ago, my oldest son, 17 at that time, phoned to tell me that he had just spent a couple of hours at a state police barracks. Apparently, he had been driving a little fast, wrote David Dobbs, a journalist for National Geographic, in October 2011. What I asked was, a little fast turned out this product of my genes and loving care. The boy man I had swaddled, coddled, and cooed at had been flying down the highway at 113 miles an hour, he continued. That's more than a little fast, he said. His son agreed. In fact, he sounded somber and contrite. The boy did not object when he told him he had to pay the fines and probably for a lawyer. He did not argue when the father pointed out that if anything happens at that speed, a dog in the road, a blown tire, a sneeze, he would die. He was in fact almost irritatingly reasonable. He even proffered that the cop did the right thing in stopping him. He did, however, object to one thing. He didn't like it that one of the several citations he received was for reckless driving. The son said, "It's just not accurate," he said calmly. "Reckless sounds like you're not paying attention, but I was. I made a deliberate point of doing this on an empty stretch of dry interstate in a broad daylight with good sight lines and no traffic. I mean, I wasn't just gunning the thing, I was driving." This is a common example of a teenager. But are these kids just being too stupid? Or risk-taking and thrill-seeking is part of their evolution? And not only that, they are moody, they are impulsive, they are maddening. Along with lacking experience generally, why do teenagers act the way they do? Let's look at what research say about teenage brain and what happens to it during adolescence. Let's welcome our special guest, a familiar face in our IRON programs, Dr. Mohammed Ramali, consultant anaesthetist in Essex, UK. Ramali, thank you very much.
Thank you,
for being with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
This is an unusual program for an anaesthetist.
Absolutely. But don't forget, Akram, this program is mainly aimed at everyone who has been teenagers in the past,
yes,
and also who have got teenage children. So I think this is going to be a very interesting hour. And thank you very much again for inviting me for this program, which I thoroughly enjoy now. And the topics you have chosen are fantastic. So I'm looking forward to this.
Ramali, this is a really important program as well. I've been preparing for this as well, because this is not even every doctor knows about this, what's happening.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of research coming out, and I told about the National Geographic, an article appeared in 2011, and I have got the interest from there. And we have prepared this so much, isn't it?
Yeah, so very true what you told was, Akram, about the research, because in history, if you see, children and neonates and infants, their brain has been studied immensely, because how people get learning difficulties, all those things. Toward the other end of the spectrum, dementia, old age, the brain has been studied. But when you think about the adolescents and teenagers, not much research has happened for a few reasons. Because brain earlier in 1970s, either you had to dissect out or you had to inject some dye and see what happened. So it's not 100% harmless. When the MRI came, they could study it very well, and especially what is called as a functional MRI, where when they are asked to do a task, they can observe the way the brain functions.
Functions.
So a lot of things have come up.
So these are all new research. And this is especially we're bringing to Iron Weavers. This is a really special program, all based on the research. We are not talking from our head. And we learned a lot about it, and especially to bring it to you. This is a live program. In case you have any questions regarding the teenagers, your questions are welcome. But if you have any other questions regarding any other health issues, please leave your number with the studio. We will call you back after the program, because we have a quite busy program, and this is going to be the last program before Ramadan, because we're going to stop for Ramadan for whole month, and we'll come back after Ramadan for our usual programs on Thursdays at 8:30 as usual. Okay, Ramali, let's explain the basics of the brain before we go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So, as you said in the introduction, Akram, the brain is the most complex organ in the universe. No computer, nothing has superseded. And the functions, every action we perform is controlled by the brain. So, everything we do. So, if I just, people who have not, I mean, it's easy for us to talk as medics. We've seen brains, we have dissected brains, we've seen images. For a lay person, brain is a gray color material. The consistency is somewhere between an overcooked pasta and a gel. That's the consistency.
So it's like between overcooked pasta and a gel.
And then if you keep the two fists together, that sort of a size, it can be slightly bigger than that. So you have a right side and a left side.
So roughly this is your brain.
Yes, and it could be slightly bigger than that. Weight-wise, it's about 3 pounds, just over 3 pounds. That's the weight.
That's about and about 2.5 kilograms. Yeah.
It's not a pleasant thing to look though.
Yeah.
But the function it performs is so important to our body. And if you see, there have been lots of myths about growth and things like that. So before I go, so brain will have about 100 billion nerve cells.
100 billion nerve cells
when it is fully developed.
It's like if you compare it to a computer, that must be, we need the whole Iron Studio to store that amount of stuff.
And those cells are called neurons. So those are the things you see as part of this gray area of the brain. But more importantly, you can't have a brain just with those cells. You have to have the right connections. Which we will talk about. So
the cables, the wires.
There's a tail, which is called the axon, and there are some branches like of a tree where they are called the dendrites. That's how they communicate with each other. So 100 billion cells having these big connections, trying to communicate. That is where the teenage brain comes into play. It's all about the connections.
Ramali, the brain is something which made us to be a superior animal in the animal kingdom.
Yes. So very important question, right, Akram? So you hit the nail. I mean, why an elephant and whales? Whale has a massive brain. Elephant has got a bigger brain, much bigger than ours. They have not conquered the moon. They have not done any scientific development. So again, I'm coming back to that point. It's not the amount of the cells, it's all about the connections. Which we will talk.
So it's all about the connections. Okay, let's play a video. This will explain the basic functions of the brain, and we'll go ahead with the program. This video will explain actually how different parts of the brain works, and you will get the basic idea, and that will help us to run the program.
The brain is the most complex organ in the human body. As part of the nervous system, the brain coordinates all of the body's functions. In adult humans, the brain is a 3-pound gelatinous mass of fat and protein. It's comprised of 4 main regions: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, the brainstem, and the diencephalon, and each one controls specific tasks. The largest section is the cerebrum, and it makes up over 3/4 of the brain's volume. It consists of neurons and nerve fibers that transmit information from the neurons throughout the brain and body. The cerebrum controls higher functions such as learning, reasoning, and speech, plus senses like sight and hearing. Under the cerebrum is the second largest part of the brain, the cerebellum. Much like the cerebrum, the cerebellum has nerve cells and nerve fibers. It carries signals to other parts of the brain and the spinal cord. The cerebellum is responsible for coordinating muscle movements, particularly those that help maintain the body's balance and posture. The third region, the brainstem, lies in front of the cerebellum and anchors the brain to the spinal cord. The brainstem is a collection of structures that include the pons, a mass of nerve fibers that carry sensory information, the midbrain, a region of fibers and structures that help control movement, along with auditory and visual processing, and the medulla oblongata, which creates motor and sensory pathways between the midbrain, the pons, and the spinal cord. Altogether, the parts of the brainstem control vital bodily functions such as cardiac activity, respiration, digestion, and sleep. The fourth region is located above the brainstem and makes up the core of the brain, the diencephalon. About the size of an apricot, the diencephalon is a grouping of several structures. The thalamus, which processes and transmits information from all senses except smell, and the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, which work together to produce and regulate neurochemicals. These structures help govern sensations, weight regulation, energy, and instinctual behaviors, such as eating, drinking, and having sex. The brain's four main components, the diencephalon, brainstem, cerebellum, and cerebrum, work in sync to ensure bodily functions are fully operational. The brain has even evolved mechanisms to protect itself. One such mechanism is the blood-brain barrier, a semi-permeable cellular wall that only allows specific chemicals to enter from the body's bloodstream into the brain. Despite this protection, tumors and other complications can lead to life-threatening problems and diseases in the brain, such as dementia. Thankfully, scientists have found ways to improve brain health. Staying physically active and eating a balanced diet may preserve cognitive function and even reduce the risk of developing Alzheimer's. So while the brain only makes up a small percentage of the body, it plays a crucial role in the body's functions and overall well-being.
That's fantastic video, courtesy of National Geographic. Ramali, let's talk a little bit about when does the brain start developing?
So, you'll be surprised to hear, brain, when you say brain starts developing, we are going to talk about developing in size and progressing in all those connections I said. So a newborn baby will have a size of 40% of the size of an adult brain. Then it will start growing. So the growth will involve increase in size, and more importantly, the cells, the gray part of the brain are the cells. Then there is something called the white matter underneath. Those are the connections I was mentioning.
You're mentioning about it. Ramali, what are we going to do? We're going to go for a quick break because it's time for a break. It's a set break. We have to go for it, and we'll talk more about the brain. If anyone joined the program today, we're talking something really important. This is all about the teenage brain. We just got into the program. We showed a video about the general functions of the brain, and we'll see you after a short break. Hi, welcome back to Iron Health Talk with Dr. Akram. Today we're talking about teenage brains. Let's go back to the program straight. Romali, let's talk about when does the brain start developing and what happens during the teenage years?
Yes. So Akram, unlike it was taught before, the research has shown the brain, when a newborn baby is born, it's about 40% size of the adult. So the development is not only increase in size to adult size, also the white material, which are I told you, the tails and the connection between cells, which we call it myelin sheaths. They are the pathways which will carry those signals. So when you want to do something, like you want to play the piano, that signal has to go to that part of the brain and it will start moving. So it's all about talking to each other. Now, if you see, the brain actually has developed from back to front, right? So you initially your balance, so when when the child starts walking and standing, so the hindbrain, which you beautifully explain in your video, the cerebellum, so that'll, and then slowly things will start developing into the front. So what happens in teenagers?
So the brain doesn't develop straight away as once, start from the back to the front.
Then, yes, because there's myth in the past saying that by 3 years the brain's developed and then no more development, and by 7 years actually the brain cells start shedding and then there's no more. It's all wrong.
It's all wrong, according to the research.
Because so what happens in teenagers, which is very important, you and I, certain things we do, we will think before we do it.
Yeah.
We call it we don't do it as a gut reaction.
Yeah.
Right? Say you want the good example is that boy who drove 113 miles per hour. But you will be thinking, okay, will there be a policeman? Will there be a camera? More importantly, is it safe to do that?
Safe to do
That's because we are thinking from a region called the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is right near the front.
Just front,
yes. But teenagers, they don't have it full developed until they are adults.
So that part of the brain where the reasoning is not fully developed.
Not fully developed. That's why I'm coming. So sometimes they do things as gut reaction, which in teenagers, which is developed well, is a part or a place called amygdala.
So, amygdala,
So that is where they decide. So they won't be able to reason it out. They won't weigh the risk and benefit. They just do it as a gut reaction.
But they still know the danger.
Yes. So that is the other thing which is very important, because everything we do, brain is doing its work, right?
Yeah.
So it's very important. So when somebody sees something, say a teenager goes with the dad driving, right? So teenager will be watching, and that will be captured in the teenager's brain.
In the brain,
And those are called mirror neurons. So just by watching, the brain is learning. But when a teenager is with a friend, he's thinking differently. Because as a group of teenagers, they are thinking from the gut reaction.
That's usually when these accidents happen, the teenagers were not alone. They usually with their friends. In the United States, actually, I was according to the research I was looking at there, the majority of the death in the young people were due to road traffic accidents, and they were teenagers.
That's why their insurance premium, everything is very high. So talking about cars, I just want to compare this. A teenager's brain is like an unroad tested Ferrari, brand new, right?
It's like an unroad tested Ferrari.
Fully revved up, doesn't know where to go. So that is the thing which, as responsible parents, right? If it's very important to highlight these things to them. You might ask me, okay, we are talking about all this research. What can they do then to avoid this?
Exactly. No, that's what I think is a good example you brought it, the unroad tested Ferrari. So you need a good driver to drive it.
Exactly.
So that's the parent here, isn't it?
So if you are not right at home, this important, this adolescent years is the pathway to become independent and live a life as an adult with lots of responsibilities. So this period is very important, how they will end up. We'll be talking later whether they'll become alcoholics, drug addicts, or good parents, taking risks. So that will all be determined by this time.
The parents should give certain amount of freedom to them.
Absolutely. So if you hear about a car accident, you should not say, oh, my son won't do this. He's much more careful. No. You should talk about that, highlight these things, and then so the brain will work.
It's better you explain to them, they understand it.
Yeah. And then somebody drowns and has who dies, then don't think that, oh, my son will never take that risk. No, talk to him.
It's not like that. And we also did in our teenage years.
Yes.
I was doing in my 20s as well. I think my brain was developing a bit slow.
I have taken a lot of risk, which I will never take now.
Yeah.
And my children, I know. But I'm actually, after reading these things and doing lots of research, my approach, I understand why they did certain things. But luckily, I've been a good parent, so they've learned. That's because it goes generation wise.
Yeah. So it says that the parents should be friendly, but they should be firm, and they should be constant.
That's very important, because you can't let it go like, okay, it's a brain, teenage brain, let him do whatever he wants. No, you have to guide them. And you know, they will be very cross with you, reminding about homework. And the next minute they'll come down and ask you, can I have some money for my expenses tomorrow?
Yeah.
So they will chase you out of the room sometime, or don't bother me, I'll do my homework. So you have to understand. That's why this program is very important for parents as well as teenagers who are watching.
Teenagers who are watching as well. I think we would like to receive a call from a teenager and tell, especially from their point of view. This is, we are mostly talking, but of course we were teenagers at one point. I have done lots of stupid things. I have sometimes overtaken 3 cars at the same time, But if I was driving today, I was thinking, now I would never do that.
That's what we are using, the prefrontal cortex, which reasons out, which weighs the risk and balances, and say whether it's a good thing or bad thing. Whereas teenagers, it's not developed properly to do that. They have this gut reaction, okay, I'll do it this way, quickly. So that's the difference. Also there is something called pleasure or reward seeking.
Pleasure or reward seeking, exactly.
That is also because of a hormone called dopamine, which is very, very big in teenage brain. But we have that.
So dopamine is the hormone which treats your brain, isn't it? It just dopes your brain.
Rewards you.
Dopes or treats. Exactly.
And we have those connections, which is, again, I'm talking about those axons, which has the ability to inhibit those. Okay, so brain is not all about excitation. There are some things which inhibit, so you dampen down. Some signals will dampen. So that's again not very well developed in teenagers. We have it. So inhibitory neurons, you call it.
It's actually in the teenagers, there are lots of rewiring happen in their brains, isn't it? And they call the myelination as well.
Yes. So, it's if you compare it with a tree, right? When a tree starts to grow, right? And there'll be lots of branches, right? Initially. And that is the time which is like reaching pubertal age. So lots of branches. Then what will happen is it will get rid of the unwanted one and what we are trained to. So you call it pruning like a tree. And then the important neurons will be thicker and the unwanted one will be not used. So that's from puberty. That is the process which happens in brain. Because from in teenagers, it is a fantastic opportunity, teenage years, to learn new skills properly, and because you remember well lot of things. But it can be the other way also. You make use of those connections to do bad things. So that is why very important to watch, learn, and go in the right direction.
Especially for parents, they need to have a watchful eye on the teenagers all the time, because it's not particularly is partially their fault, but it's not always their fault as well. It's the evolution as well, isn't it? How we are made ourselves.
Talking about evolution, some animals didn't have a long long adults, they didn't need to. Humans needed, because if you think of old age or stone ages and all, they have to survive this for longer. So they have to learn as they go along.
They have to learn.
Yes.
That's the basic point of these teenagers. They are learning the new skills, isn't it? Like if we think about our age, about let's say 40, 50 years ago, what we learned is not going to be, we have never had these tablets, computers and all these things.
Very true.
So our teenagers who are going through, they have to face with these new developments. And that's how we, human, as a species, we are going ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's why it's so important, the parents, and don't forget what I told about the mirror neurons. Even without you knowing, when that teenager sees some things, without him knowing, the brain will be storing those things.
Store things.
And when it happens again, it comes back very quickly.
Yeah.
Especially if a parent is driving, he will know how he's driving when he's watching. But when he's alone, that part of the brain, which the mirror neurons have captured those, will be there. So he may not take those risks because he's watched his father.
I know, I can still remember it, as you said about that driving thing. You know, my uncle, my father's brother, he used to drive a lot. He's a very good driver. He was working in that sector as well. So whenever I was he had a lorry and I was driving, he was talking through every bit of driving, you know, when he is overtaking, why I can overtake now. You know,
So
all these things, and
so he will be thinking from his prefrontal cortex.
Exactly.
Whereas a teenager, no, he will tell, okay, as a gut reaction, okay, I have room. I will overtake this car despite a car coming in front. I'll be able to do it. So that is the biggest difference.
Yeah.
So watch, learn, and keep on talking to your, and then.
And the kids, yeah.
Can I just go into the other subject, which is about the sleep? Or
we will go after the break.
Okay,
we're going to talk about. We got 1 minute. Let's talk a little bit more about it. They are moody, impulsive, socialist, communist, egalitarian. How do teenagers react emotionally? Why is that?
Again, it is part of our brain, because there is something called a limbic system where we react. So if I have done this experiment in my house, in certain people in the workplace. So if I take a photographs of a person, if I show it to a teenager, right, actually the photograph is showing a person who is scared or fearful. The eyes are lit up. So their answer will be shocked, horror. The answer saying he is a frightened gentleman will never come out. You ask an adult, they will tell the right answer. Oh, this patient looks, but he's very frightened, he's fearful, he's got scary, he's scared of something. So the teenagers will never give the answer saying it's scared, because they are thinking as a gut reaction from the amygdala, no emotions involved, answer. Whereas so I had done the experiment myself.
Okay, Ramali, this is a really good, interesting topic. So we're reaching to our next break again, and we'll talk more about teenage brain after the break. Anyway, if anyone joined, we're talking about teenage brain. This is really interesting subject. Probably you haven't heard this before. Even doctors haven't heard this before. This is all based on research. We'll come back to you after a short break. Welcome back to Iron Health Talk with Dr. Akram. Today we're talking about teenage brain. So be with us. the last session, we're going to talk more important things. Grumpy at breakfast, disgusting at dinner, masterful on Mondays, sleepwalking on Saturdays. Why do they sleep so long, and why do they sleep in weird hours?
Okay, we've all been there, Akram. I don't know how you find it difficult to wake a teenager to go to school in the morning. It's the most difficult thing, right? So you can't just blame them for that, right? So during the teenage years, what is important for our sleep is a hormone called melatonin.
Melatonin.
Right? So for them, actually, so melatonin will help you sleep. So for them, actually, melatonin will start in your body after about midnight, whereas we get it early in our years and we go to sleep early. So how much they try to sleep, it will be very difficult for them because of that. And then melatonin lasts longer, right? So if you see a baby, right, will have at least about 8 hours sleep, right? And actually teenagers will need about 9.5 hours to sleep. Because their body clock starts later. That's when the melatonin helps with your body clock, or you call it biological clock. So we are all used to awake during daytime. When the night falls, your body is acclimatized to that, and your hormones will be secreted and you go to sleep. But teenagers will sleep late and they wake up late. It will be, and they go to sleep they go to school half asleep. That's what in certain countries, they did this study and then found out they concentrate better later in the morning, and they even tried, I think in the United States, some of the states had school starting later, 9, half 9, and they found that the children were doing better. Yeah, right. Rather than, I mean, you know, our children, back even in our home countries, by 5:30 they're awake, getting ready, waiting for the bus or the school van to come. And then 7:45, 7:30, they're in school, and half of them are asleep. So what is very important is, sleep is very important for teenagers, right? And also, this is for teenagers who are preparing for exams. I know people revise all night, but when I say a sleeping brain is a hard-working brain, I'm not underestimating. So say you revise something in the evening into early night, and you went to sleep. Don't think that your brain is sleeping. The brain is going through refreshing your memory what you did during that time, and especially during a sleep called rapid eye movement sleep, REM sleep. You get it at the latter part of your sleep. So if you have done that, your revision would have stayed in your brain very well, as opposed to a person who's been up all night revising. You didn't give that chance for your brain during the sleep to memorize those things.
So whatever you study during the daytime, brain is so busy, it doesn't have time to store them.
Yes.
So when you are sleeping, brain is working harder to store them in different places.
And then also, you will be surprised, duplicate memories, brain will get rid of it, make storage space for new things to come. If you don't get that sleep, you won't get that. So it is a long-term effect.
That's why people who can't sleep well, they have problem with memory.
Absolutely. Yeah. So don't forget to have good sleep. I know it's not easy. And then other tip is, these phones and all, tablets and all, the illumination around it will delay your sleep. Any light will delay your sleep. So make sure you get a book to read and off the lights and try to sleep. You will succeed. And a tip to waking up in the morning: no point keeping about 5 alarms, right? Make sure you drop the curtains and get some natural light, and your body will change, body clock will change, and then it will help wake you up. I know some people.
So that's a good thing for the parents as well.
Absolutely.
If they want to wake them up, they can just go there and lift up this curtain and leave them for some time. So they will.
We've all been there. How many times you had to wake them up? About 4 or 5 times into that room. So it's all about because of the melatonin hormones and their behavior.
There is a caller coming. Let's see if it's about teenage brain. Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Please go ahead. Thank you.
जी ভালো আছেন আপনি?
Hello. Yeah.
তো আমি আমার কথাটা শুনতে পারছেন?
Sorry, we don't speak Bengali. If you can speak in English, we should be able to help you. Okay, that's fine. Okay, let's go ahead with.
Yeah, so that's why I can't stress the importance of having a good sleep. Whether exam time or not, you'll have a better active day next day. So make sure you get enough sleep.
Enough sleep. Teens prefer the company of those their own age more than ever before.
Again,
Why is it important for evolution?
I mean, so evolution has played a big part, right? And then the peer pressures, hormones, so dopamine is very important, and they are risk taking, right? So if you see in the old age, there were more risks. So and then now, and they couldn't cope well with those. Here we have coping mechanism, but the risk is even further here. We talked about cars, addiction. Those are all risk taking. So there is part of this brain where you don't think, you don't weigh the benefits and the risks. So
so teens, they still have to spend time, lot of time with their friends as well, and this is time they socialize and they learn new things and they talk about it. Then their brain get to know new things.
Yeah, that's where, because this is the adolescence is their road to adulthood and independence.
Yeah.
So this journey we are talking about today,
that helps them to go to that adulthood. Yeah.
Absolutely. So they will learn as they go along, but they should be able to weigh those things, think from their prefrontal cortex rather than the amygdala.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Best time to learn languages.
Yes. So there have been lots of research in that. I think when somebody reaches about 7 years, right, it's difficult to learn a new language. They will learn, but they will struggle because of these reasons. They will find it difficult to get that. Each language has their beautiful accents.
Yeah.
Right? Any language. So if somebody has learned, that's what you see, even same for our children, who has been here since small, they get the accents as well beautifully.
Beautifully, yeah.
But the researchers have shown that after 7 years, if you learn a new language, you don't get that natural accent.
Natural accent, right.
And the chances of learning more languages become less because there's a center for memory, the hippocampus, which is the area of the brain which stores memory. So the connections there and the development slows down. And then it starts again later on, but then you can't get the accent and things like that.
So it's basically, I think it's until 13 years they can still learn reasonably good amount of languages.
But then they won't develop that accents and things like that.
Accents, yeah.
Yeah, because each language is very beautiful when it is pronounced properly.
Properly.
I mean,
and it's better to learn more languages when they are young.
Absolutely.
So then that develops the part of the brain, and they could learn more even in the future.
Definitely.
Okay, let's talk about addiction, alcohol, drugs. Why are they going in this path at this time?
Yeah. So again, Akram, teenagers like taking risks, and I told pleasure, reward, which is all by the dopamine. But there are some inhibitory neurons, inhibitory pathways we call, which are well developed in us. With them, no. So when they try to do something, the inhibition is less, or
the inhibition is less.
They're telling them don't do it. So that's where the parents will need to keep on educating. So way of I can't remember exactly the percentage. There's a big group. I think by about 13 or 15, they are drinking a lot. So if you start drinking at that age, about 40% of them will struggle, and in adulthood they become alcoholics. And alcohol itself has its own problem. Memory issues, they have other diseases. It's very important to educate him at that. And it's not once. I told you, they by watching, so you have to be correct first.
Yeah.
Right? But just educate them. Same with drug addiction, right? So they don't understand the consequences because they are not thinking from the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
But there are lots of dopamine in their brain. They won't pleasure and reward, and also the peer pressure from their friends. So
they want to be cool in
exactly
bit of
teenage.
The friends,
cool. So teenagers enjoy the teenage years. There's a way to enjoy it, but if you don't do it properly, you struggle in adulthood. You hit the nail on the head, saying that the parents doesn't need to be control freaks, but they need to keep an eye and have constant communication. That's because you have to build some trust with your children or teenagers. Then they know.
You'd rather be a friend to your children, and you will get done more work.
We trust our friends.
Exactly.
Right? So then they will trust you, and they need you. Whatever they say, next minute they will have a go at you. Okay, get out of my room. I know when to finish my home. Next minute they will need you.
They will need you.
They won't realize, and they don't think. When a mom when somebody goes into the room to check, have you got the homework done? Why is your room messy? They don't think that they are coming really to help. They might think they are coming just to check on me, because that's the way the brain is working.
Exactly.
By only talking and keep on doing it.
Yeah.
If you start having a fight or confrontation, that doesn't help.
That doesn't help. So it's only the way you go, the more friendly you are, and it's more accepted.
Absolutely.
And that's the time they need a lot of support this time. Because they are going through a huge brain process, what's going on. And pruning. So they need support.
Absolutely, and that'll because it's very important they become independent after their adolescent age. So what they learn through this time is going to determine how they are going to be in adults.
Ramli, thank you very much for a wonderful program. Do you want to tell something to the parents as well as for the teenagers?
Yes. My message is, you can't blame everything with the teenagers. You have to understand how and why they are doing this, and it's always important to talk to them. And whatever actions you do, good actions, make sure they are aware of it. And if it comes to driving or doing any sports or whatever, so it's very important you have that communication, and don't just keep on blaming for everything they do. The brain plays a part. That's my message.
Thank you very much. But anyway, for all of you, this is going to be our last program just before Ramadan. For Ramadan, we're going to stop for a month, and we'll come back to our normal program on Thursdays at 8:30. So until then, if you want to contact us, our team, we will be happy to answer you any questions. Please come back on our YouTube channel, Health Talk with Dr. Akram, where you could always leave a message, and we'll come back to you and answer any questions you have, and we'll still be with you. For being with us for this wonderful year with Iron Health Talk. Thank you all very much, and we are wishing you a wonderful time with Ramadan, and enjoy your time and enjoy your festivals, and look after yourself, especially with COVID, diabetes, all things happen. And we're going to make some special videos as well for Ramadan that will be uploaded in our Health Talk with Dr. Akram YouTube. And we'll see you after Ramadan. Thank you very much. Look after yourselves.